What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to TTP Sports. Sadly, the Phillies could not find a way to sweep the St. Louis Cardinals team. They drop it by a score of 6-5. Taijuan Walker was not good in this game. I believe his, 7 innings was very fake in this ball game. Rob Thompson basically just used him to go 7 innings to get the bullpen a lot of rest. And you were still involved in the game. The offense comes back. They tie it 5-5 with, Alec Bohm hitting an absolute moonshot into the second deck. That was absolutely beautiful. And then, you find a way to tie the game thanks to Nick Castellanos getting a nice single up the hole. Sadly, you couldn't cash in more in that situation, but you still tied the game. That was a nice starting point. But then, sadly, once you go to the bullpen, Seranthony Dominguez was the first guy to come out, and he gets the first 2 outs of the bottom of the 8th inning, but then he leaves an absolute meatball right down the middle of the plate to Jordan Walker, and he crushes it to give the Cardinals the lead, and that's where they didn't look back. The Phillies did have a chance to tie it, though, in the top of the 9th inning. Bryce gets on, Alec Bohm gets on, but then, a terrible at-bat by JT Realmuto, surprise, surprise, and then Johan Rojas just, he put nice bat on ball, but sadly, he just hit it right to an outfielder today. There was also a lot of that with the Phillies offense today. They had a lot of hard hits, a lot of hard contact. They just got unlucky with hitting balls like right to outfielders and right to guys into the field, so there was a bit of unluckiness there, but overall, I am disappointed that you didn't get the sweep. But I'm not going to be pissed off or anything like that. You got the series win. That is the most important thing, winning 2 of 3. But still, I would have liked to sweep the series going into this Atlanta series coming up Monday through Wednesday in Atlanta. Even though the Atlanta Braves did get swept by the Miami Marlins, so maybe they're for winning the division. Maybe they, just lost a little bit of that oomph. They took a little bit of an off thing there. But I'm not sure how the Braves are going to play, this series against the Phillies again. This time in Atlanta, so there's really no guarantees. Really no guarantees at all. I would like to try to win the series in Atlanta. You do got, Zack Wheeler and Christopher Sanchez on the bump in this series, so there definitely is a good shot. I know Zack Wheeler did not look his best against Atlanta, but, he's getting another shot here, and I don't think he's going to have 2 bad games in a row against the Atlanta Braves. I just don't see that from Zack Wheeler. But, the offense, I'm sure they'll come out to play, so I'm not worried about that in the slightest. It's really just overall looking at this game, and it's going to go into the conversation just for the playoffs in general. The pitching, that's basically it. I'm not concerned about this offense. They'll have their good days. They'll have their bad days. They've been fairly consistent, basically since the beginning of August, hitting home runs. So that's been there. They're scoring runs, getting at least 5 runs up on the board majority of the game. So I'm not overly concerned about the offense. Yeah, they're going into the funk with the runners in scoring position, but, they can get hot at any point with that stuff. So I'm not worried about that in the slightest. It's the pitching. It's the pitching, and that's basically the obvious thing to be concerned about there. With the starting rotation, besides Zack Wheeler and maybe Christopher Sanchez, who else do you trust? Really no one. Really no one. It's Zack Wheeler, but you already know what the playoff rotation is going to be. It's Zack Wheeler, Aaron Nola, Ranger Suarez, Taijuan Walker. And, of course, we don't trust Aaron Nola this year. I don't trust this year's version of Ranger Suarez, and God forbid I don't trust Taijuan Walker either. Even though he had some good innings today, it's still like the innings that he blows up and innings that he loses his command. That's just, it's gonna kill you. And when you give so many free passes and hard contact and all that stuff, it's gonna kill you in the playoffs. It just is. It just is. And then for the bullpen, Seranthony Dominguez cannot pitch in high leverage situations. He cannot. He cannot. He cannot. He cannot. He cannot. I know last year's version of Seranthony Dominguez was really good in the regular season. September, he hit a wall. He really struggled last September, but, he figured it out and became a huge horse for you in last year's playoff run. The difference is that this year's version of Seranthony Dominguez has been absolutely terrible. He's been all over the place. His mechanics are not there. His command is not there. He's not the same guy that he was last year, and I'm not confident that he's just going to magically figure it out again in October during the playoffs. I just cannot foresee him figuring it out. I would like to be confident in that fact, but right now I'm just not. Because lately he's been giving up a lot of home runs, something that he really doesn't do. And that's really concerning. That is really concerning. And this is a tweet from Corey Seidman on the Seranthony Dominguez situation. For the third time in his last 5 outings, Seranthony Dominguez allows a go-ahead or game-tying home run. So, yeah, that's not good. That is not good. That is not the confidence I want in a pitcher going in, or the lack of confidence going into the playoffs. I just don't want to see that at all. And if I'm looking at this bullpen right now, there's guys I trust. There's guys I don't trust. If I were to put a list from the guys that are going to get the more high leverage situations, Craig Kimbrell, he's going to be that guy that's going to close out the game. He's one of the other guys that I trust in the bullpen this year. Jose Alvarado, he's going to get high leverage situations. Hasn't been the same since the injuries, but he can, he's still a guy that I should be able to trust. Jeff Hoffman deserves every chance in the world to pitch in high leverage situations in the playoffs. He deserves all that stuff because he's basically been the Phillies' best reliever this year. He really has been. And then going down the list, it's really, a question mark. I would say Strom's probably going to be the next guy, but I would put Gregory Soto past, next to Jeff Hoffman, or after Jeff Hoffman. And then if I'm still just going down the list, then you can do Strom. Then you can do a Lorenzen, because Lorenzen's going back into the bullpen. And then, Seranthony and Covey. Like, that's how far down Seranthony is on my list right now. That's how much, how little I trust him. I'm pairing him with Dylan Covey at this point. Christopher Sanchez is most likely going into the bullpen, so I would put Christopher Sanchez way above those guys. I would put him above Lorenzen at this point. I would put him, basically around the same point as Matt Strom. That's what I would do at least. But Rob Thompson wants to give his guys confidence. He's going to use Seranthony in big spots in the playoffs because he was so huge for them last year. I wouldn't be shocked if that's the case. But it's really just, pitching is such the biggest question mark this year, and it's not even funny. Like, I can't be confident in Aaron Nola just to magically turn around and magically, be a guy that we know he can be. I just can't do it because he barely has done it all year. Ranger Suarez has been very up and down. He had the really good June, but besides that, he really has not been consistent with the command and not being able to locate anything. That's the biggest question mark there. Taijuan Walker, we all know Mets fans warned us. We didn't want to believe it. Second halves for Taijuan Walker are not good. Not good at all. That's just basically it. It's an issue. It's a big issue. And I can't, just foretell that all these guys are just going to figure it out. It's basically Zack Wheeler that I trust in the rotation, and then there's a handful of guys in the bullpen that I trust. That's basically it, and those guys in the bullpen are going to be getting a lot of heavy work in the playoffs. They're going to have to. They're going to have to. Hoffman's going to have to get a lot of work. Jose Alvarado's going to get a lot of work. Craig Kimbrell's going to get a lot of work. I'm sure Soto's going to get a lot of work. Same thing with Strom. So that's basically it there. You're going to have to roll with the guys that you've been using all year. Strom has had his hot and cold moments, so he can go on a stretch where he doesn't allow runs and he looks really good. Same thing with Gregory Soto. Especially Soto with inherited runners. He's more better than, coming in on a clean inning for some reason. I have no idea why. Alvarado, he can get hot at any moment. And then Craig Kimbrell even though he has been more human as of late, he can still be your Mr. Consistent out of the bullpen for closing games. But Hoffman has been more Mr. Consistent the entire season because he's just been that good. But the rest of it, like I said, I'm not concerned about the offense. They'll hit when the time comes. I except for JT Realmuto. I firmly believe that. That's basically it. If we look at the lineup today to see how everything went, Kyle Schwarber goes 1 for 5, Trey Turner 2 for 5, Bryce Harper 1 for 3 with 2 walks, Alec Boehm 2 for 4 with a solo shot, Bryson Stott 2 for 4, JT 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts, Brandon Marsh 0 for 2 with a walk, Rojas comes in, goes 1 for 2, Castellanos 1 for 3 with 2 RBI and a walk, Jake Cave 1 for 2, and then Sosa came into the ball game, went 0 for 2. Phillies went 3 for 12 with runners in scoring position. They left 11 runners on base. So, yeah, the runners in scoring position has been the major issue with the offense lately. But like I said, they can get that part of their game can get hot at any time. The home runs are there and all that stuff. They're still putting runs up in games, so I'm not concerned at all. Pitching-wise, you only use 2 pitchers today, so your bullpen's definitely going to be majorly rested going into Atlanta. Taijuan Walker, 7 innings, 8 hits, 5 earned runs. Didn't walk many guys in this game. He only had 1 walk, but 3 strikeouts, a home run allowed on 109 pitches. It's just when he got into those bad innings, it just completely, went away from him. And it really started in the third inning for the Taijuan Walker. Allowed a leadoff single, and then an infield single on, just a weird situation. He manages to get a fielder's choice, getting it out at third base. Then he gets the second out of the inning, but then, Paul Goldschmidt, who was really good in this game, doubles down the right field line, scores a run. Then he walks the next batter, which was his only walk of the game, so he got a walk at the worst possible time. Then Arenado doubles down the line to score a third run. Phillies managed to come back into the game, thanks to the Cardinals' terrible defense. Bryce Harper with a leadoff walk, Bohm singled to follow that up, and then Bryce and Stott decided to do a little bit of a bunt situation here, and this is just crazy here. So he bunts it, goes right to the second baseman. He gets Bohm into a rundown because Bohm was just hesitant because he didn't know if the guy was going to catch it or not. So Bohm gets into the rundown, Stott's out at first, but then Bohm's still in the rundown. Here comes Bryce Harper, the scorer, and then no one's covering second base, so Alec Bohm goes to second base uncontested. So instead of it being a double play, getting Bohm out in the rundown, Bryce Harper scores, and you got another runner at second base. So that's just terrible work by the Cardinals there. JT gets hit by a pitch. Marsh walks, so you get bases loaded for Nick Castellanos. I just knew this was shaping up to be, a Nick Castellanos swing at the first pitch ground ball. He did exactly that. Grounded to Arenado. Looks like it's going to be a picturesque double play, but no, the relay from second base, throwing error, scores 2 more runs, and the Phillies tied the ball game up thanks to the Cardinals defense, so you'll take that any day of the week. Walker settled down in the 4th inning, but then you go to the bottom of the 5th inning. That's where he blows up a little bit again. Gets the first out of the inning, but then he allows a home run to Paul Goldschmidt. Then he allows a double. Then a single to Arenado, which scores another run. So basically, it was Paul Goldschmidt, Burleson, and Arenado that killed Taijuan Walker in this game. That's basically it. But still, when your team ties the ball game up, you just can't let the other team find a way to get hot. Nothing really happening, in the next few innings. Top of the 8th, that's when the Phillies found a way to come back. Alec Bohm, solo shot, absolutely crushed. Bryce and Stott then singles after the Cardinals bring the bullpen in. Rojas reaches in on an infield single. They both steal second and third base. Nick Castellanos with a nice single on a 1-2 count. Scores 2 runs, ties the ball game up. Schwarber then walks. And so you got another couple of situations there for Trey Turner. Sadly, he didn't get the job done. Sadly, that was the case. Then Seranthony Dominguez gets Arenado to line out on a beautiful play to Edmundo Sosa. Then he gets the next guy to ground out, but then Jordan Walker just a pitch right down the middle of the plate. 98-mile-an-hour sinker. Sends it out of the ballpark. Phillies tried to come back. Bohm walks against Ryan Helsley. Stott singles on the first pitch, but then JT with a terrible at-bat strikes out. And then Rojas, he battled into his at-bat, but, he flew out right to the center fielder. It was a nice contact, nice wood, but, that's basically it. So, you lose this game. You're back to, I believe, 13 games above 500, so it's still solid in that case. In terms of the wild card standings, you're back to 3 games ahead of the Chicago Cubs. The Cubs did lose an extra innings last night, so you were 3.5 games ahead of the Chicago Cubs coming into this game, but now with the loss, it's back to 3 games, and we won't find out about the Cubs game until later tonight because I believe they are the ESPN game. So if the Cubs were to lose to Arizona once again, it'll go back to a 3.5 game lead, so we basically just have to wait out everything right there. Basically. The Marlins, they're winning ball games. They just swept the Atlanta Braves, so that's kind of annoying. But it's weird, though, because the Marlins, they won the series against the Phillies. They lost 3 out of 4 to Milwaukee, and then they just swept the Braves. But I do believe Miami is playing Milwaukee again in their next series, if I'm not mistaken. No, they're playing the Mets their next series. Okay. So they play the Mets, and then they play the Brewers again. Okay. So Miami, honestly, I don't buy them. I think they're a very flawed team. I really do. But honestly, between, if I'm looking at this last wildcard spot, between them, the Diamondbacks, the Reds, I would say it's a tie between the Marlins and the Diamondbacks right now. It just really depends on who the Diamondbacks play to close out the year, if I'm looking at everything. So for the Diamondbacks, They play San Francisco, they play the Yankees, they play the White Sox and the Astros, so they technically have a harder schedule than the or basically you could put their schedules neck and neck, the Bartlands and the Diamondbacks. So it's basically a coin flip there on who finishes out there. But who knows? Maybe the Cubs can fall out. So that's even given because the Cubs have not been good lately. They've lost 4 in a row. They're 3-7 in their last 10. And if I'm looking at tonight's game for their pitching matchup with the Diamondbacks, just to see what the case is there, it's going to be Jordan Wicks going up against Ryan Nelson. Jordan Wicks is 3-0 with a 1.99 ERA. So who knows? Maybe that's in line for a Cubs win tonight. Who knows? Who knows if that's the case? So we don't know. There. Yeah, it's basically it there. If we're looking at the schedule upcoming for the Brave series, like I said, it's going to be Zack Wheeler tomorrow. He's going up against Kyle Wright. And then it'll be Christopher Sanchez against Max Fried. And then it'll be Aaron Nola on Wednesday afternoon against Spencer Strider. So we'll see what happens there. We'll see. And then you got the Mets series, the 4-game Mets series at home. Ranger Suarez, Taijuan Walker, Zack Wheeler, and Christopher Sanchez. So you don't face Kodai Senga in this series, but you're going to be going up against Tyler Miguel, who is 8-8 with a 4.94 ERA. And then Jose Quintana, who is 3-5 with a 3.02 ERA. He's been solid since coming back from the injured list. And then Jose Buto, who is 1-2 with a 3.46 ERA. And then it'll be Joey Lucchesi, who is 3-0 with a 2.83 ERA. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. But the Braves series is the next one upcoming, so we'll see how that all pans out. And that's basically it. That is basically it. Yeah. Like I said, I'm not, not mad about it. I'm disappointed. It's just the pitching is the biggest concern. That's all. The pitching is just the biggest concern right now. And that's, it is a huge concern. It really is. But that's going to do it for this, show, everybody. A little bit of a quick hitter, get back to, watching football the rest of the night and all that. I doubt anyone was really paying attention to this game since the Phillies won this series, so I wouldn't be shocked if that was the case. So, yeah, you won the series. That's the most important thing. Hopefully you try to win the series in Atlanta. We'll see how that goes. I'm not confident in it, but you got Zack Wheeler and Christopher Sanchez in this series. Yeah, I'm not even saying Aaron Nola, so yeah, there you go. So that'll do it for today, everybody. Thank you for joining. Do not forget to leave a comment in the comment section down below. Do not forget to drop a like. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It does me a great deal of service. Also, don't forget to use the code TTPSPORTS, $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek. Great deal. Do not pass it up. Thank you once again for joining, everybody. Quick hitter.